Have you ever stood in a crowded room, surrounded by laughter and music, and felt like you were the only person on earth? Have you ever looked at an empty chair beside you and felt the weight of 1,000 memories pressing down on your chest? If you have, then Mark's story is going to hit you right in the heart. It's a story about grief, about the terrifying courage it takes to move on, and about the moment a single voice cut through the silence to change everything. Stick with me until the very end, because the twist in this story isn't just about romance, it's about waking up. Before we dive into this emotional roller coaster, do me a huge favor. If you believe in second chances and the power of love, hit that like button right now. It helps us share these stories with people who might really need to hear them. And if you aren't part of our family yet, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what we have coming next. Now, let's go to the wedding. Mark stood in front of his bathroom mirror, fighting a losing battle with a black necktie. His hands, usually steady from years of carpentry work, were trembling. He looked at his reflection and saw a man who looked tired. Not the sleepy kind of tired, but the soul-deep exhaustion that comes from 3 years of being a single father, a widower, and the only anchor for his 6-year-old daughter, Lily. The suit he was wearing smelled faintly of dust and cedar. He hadn't taken it out of the garment bag since the funeral. He brushed a speck of lint off the lapel, trying to ignore the memories that the fabric evoked. Today wasn't about the past, he told himself. Today was about his best friend, David, getting married. It was a happy day. He just had to survive it. "Daddy, you look like a penguin." Lily giggled from the doorway. She was dressed in her pajamas, holding her favorite stuffed rabbit by the ear. Mark forced a smile, turning to scoop her up. "A handsome penguin, I hope?" "The handsomest," she declared, planting a sticky kiss on his cheek. "Mrs. Higgins is here. She has cookies." Mrs. Higgins was the elderly neighbor from across the street who stepped in as a grandmother figure whenever Mark needed help. Today, she was his lifeline. As Mark walked Lily downstairs and handed her over, he felt that familiar pang of guilt, the guilt of leaving her, even for a few hours. But Mrs. Higgins shooed him out the door. "Go," she said sternly but kindly. "Drink champagne. Dance. Don't come back until you've remembered what it feels like to be a grown-up." Mark walked to his car, but as he reached for the handle, he paused. He looked at the house next door. It was a small, blue bungalow with a porch that was always overflowing with potted plants. That was where Sarah lived. Sarah was a mystery wrapped in oversized sweaters and messy buns. She had moved in a year ago, a quiet woman who worked as a graphic designer and spent her weekends tending to her garden. They had exchanged pleasantries over the fence, conversations about trash pickup schedules, the weather, and how fast the grass was growing. Mark liked Sarah. She was the only person who didn't look at him with that specific, widower pity, face. She just treated him like a guy. A guy with a loud lawnmower and a cute kid. He hadn't seen her car in the driveway for 2 days, and he assumed she was away on a trip. He felt a strange, irrational disappointment that he couldn't wave goodbye to her. Shaking his head at his own foolishness, he got into his car and drove toward the city. The wedding venue was a sprawling estate with manicured gardens and a crystal chandelier ballroom. It was the kind of place that smelled of expensive perfume and fresh roses. As Mark walked in, the anxiety hit him like a physical blow. He handed his gift to the attendant and scanned the room. It was a sea of couples. Everywhere he looked, people were paired off. Holding hands, adjusting each other's collars, whispering inside jokes. Mark shoved his hands into his pockets, feeling the ghost of a hand that used to hold his. He found his seat at table 9. It was located near the back, close to the kitchen doors. As he sat down, he realized with a sinking heart that this was the singles and miscellaneous table. To his left was an awkward cousin of the groom who wouldn't stop talking about cryptocurrency. To his right was a bitter college roommate of the bride who was already on her 3rd glass of wine. Mark nodded politely, made small talk, and checked his watch. It had been 11 minutes. The ceremony was beautiful, which made it worse. Watching David look at his bride with that teary-eyed devotion made Mark's chest ache. He remembered that look. He remembered the promise of forever, and he remembered how cruel fate could be when forever was cut short. When the ceremony ended and the reception began, the noise level rose. The band started playing upbeat jazz, and the clinking of glasses filled the air. Mark sat at his table, picking at his chicken. He felt like he was encased in glass. He could see the joy, he could hear the laughter, but he couldn't touch it. He was the odd number. The incomplete set. He felt the eyes of the other guests sliding over him, the tragic single dad, the man who came alone. He imagined their whispers. Asterisk, that's Mark. So sad. He hasn't dated anyone since, you know. Asterisk. He needed air. The walls were closing in. He stood up abruptly, muttering an excuse to the cryptocurrency cousin, and navigated his way through the crowded tables. He headed toward the French doors that led to a stone terrace overlooking the gardens. He stepped out into the cool evening air and took a deep, shuddering breath. It was quieter here. The sun was setting, painting the sky in bruises of purple and orange. He leaned against the stone railing, gripping it until his knuckles turned white. "I can't do this," he whispered to the empty garden. "I'm not ready." He was about to turn around, walk to his car, and leave without saying goodbye to David. He would text him later. He would say he wasn't feeling well. It wasn't a lie, his heart was physically hurting. He turned toward the door, his eyes cast downward at his polished black shoes. He was looking at the ground, defeated, ready to retreat into his safe, lonely life. Suddenly, a voice rang out. Clear. Sharp. Loud. "Mark. Look at me." It wasn't a polite call. It was a shout. It was a command. Mark froze. The voice was familiar, but it was out of context. He slowly lifted his head. Standing about 20 feet away, near the entrance to the rose garden, was a woman. She wasn't wearing an oversized sweater or a messy bun. She was wearing a floor-length emerald green gown that shimmered in the twilight. Her hair was cascaded in soft waves over her shoulders. She looked like a movie star. She looked terrified. It was Sarah. His neighbor. Mark blinked, sure he was hallucinating. "Sarah," he choked out. She didn't smile. She walked toward him, her heels clicking rhythmically on the stone pavers. She didn't stop until she was 3 feet away from him. Her eyes were blazing with an intensity he had never seen before. She was breathing hard, as if she had just run a marathon. "I am the bride's cousin," Sarah said, her voice trembling slightly now. "I saw you walk in. I saw where they sat you. I saw you looking at the floor all night." Mark was speechless. I didn't know you were related to." "It doesn't matter," she interrupted. She took a step closer, invading his personal space, breaking the barrier he had built around himself for 3 years. "Mark, why are you leaving?" "I don't belong here, Sarah," Mark said, his voice cracking. "Look at me. I'm a mess. Everyone else is happy and whole, and I'm the guy who brings the mood down. I was just going to go home to Lily." "No," Sarah said firmly. "No? No," she repeated. "You are not going home. You are not going to retreat back into that house and hide behind the fence. Do you know why I shouted? Do you know why I made a scene?" Mark shook his head, bewildered. "Because for the last year, I have watched the kindest man I've ever met water his lawn and play tea party with his daughter," Sarah said, tears pricking her eyes. "I have watched you carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. And tonight, when I saw you walking away with your head down, looking at your shoes like you were apologizing for existing, I got angry. I got angry because you don't see what I see. What do you see? Mark whispered. I see a man who survived the worst thing imaginable and is still standing, Sarah said, her voice softening. I see a father who loves fiercely. And I see a man that I have wanted to ask out for 6 months but was too scared because I didn't think I could compare to a ghost. The air between them seemed to vibrate. Mark stared at her. He saw the nervous flutter of her pulse in her neck. He saw the genuine emotion in her eyes. She wasn't pitying him. She was seeing him. You shouted, "Look at me," Mark said slowly. Because you were looking at the ground, Sarah replied. You were looking at the past. I wanted you to look up. I wanted you to look at me. At the present. At maybe, a future. For the first time in 3 years, the ice around Mark's heart cracked. It didn't melt all at once, but a ray of light got in. He realized he had been so focused on the empty chair that he hadn't noticed the person standing right next to the fence. I'm looking, Mark said, a small, genuine smile touching his lips. I'm really looking, Sarah. Good, she exhaled, a tear finally escaping and rolling down her cheek. She wiped it away quickly. Now, they are playing The Way You Look Tonight inside. It is a cliché, and it is cheesy, and I love it. Do you know how to dance, neighbor? Mark looked at his hands, the hands that built cabinets and braided hair. He reached out and took Sarah's hand. It was warm. It was real. I'm a little rusty, he admitted. But I think I can manage. They didn't go back inside the ballroom immediately. There, on the stone terrace, under the rising moon, Mark pulled Sarah close. They moved slowly to the muffled music coming from inside. It wasn't a magical fix. Mark still missed his wife, he always would. But as he held Sarah, breathing in the scent of her vanilla shampoo, he realized that the heart is not a glass that shatters once and is gone forever. It is a muscle. It tears, it heals, and it grows stronger. They danced until the song ended. When they finally pulled apart, Sarah was smiling, radiant and real. So, she said mischievously. Does this mean you'll finally let me help you fix that loose board on your porch? Mark laughed. It was a rusty sound, unused for too long, but it felt good. Deal. But only if I can cook you dinner. I make a terrible lasagna, but Lily loves it. I love terrible lasagna, Sarah grinned. They walked back into the wedding together. Mark didn't look at the floor. He didn't look at the empty chairs. He walked with his head up, his hand lightly touching the small of Sarah's back. When they passed table 9, he didn't sit down. He led her straight to the dance floor. People watched. The whispers started again, but this time, the tone was different. They weren't whispering about the sad widower. They were whispering about the couple in the middle of the floor who looked like they were discovering a secret that no one else knew. That night didn't just change Mark's relationship status, it changed his trajectory. He realized that while grief is a place you visit, it doesn't have to be where you live. He realized that sometimes, when you are about to walk away from life, you need someone to shout, "Look at me," to remind you that you are still here, and you are still worthy of being seen. Mark and Sarah are still neighbors, but the fence doesn't separate them anymore. They cut a gate in it. And Lily? She finally got the mother figure she deserved, and Mark got the partner he never thought he'd find again. So, here is the message I want you to take away today. If you are walking through life looking at your shoes, carrying a heavy burden, waiting for permission to be happy again, lift your head up. Look around. There might be a miracle living right next door, just waiting for you to notice. Don't let the pain of yesterday blind you to the beauty of today. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of a second chapter. If this story touched your heart, please like this video. It tells us to keep making content that matters. And don't forget to subscribe. We are building a community of hope here, and we want you in it. Share this with someone who needs a reminder to look up. Thanks for watching, and remember, never be afraid to dance again.